I want to talk to that woman that is ignoring some red flags they are seeing. They don't want to talk about it, or they're sweeping it under the rug, that hoping things will look better, things will change. Well, newsflash, they never change. They never, ever, ever change. Hey, friend. Welcome to the Rise and Rebuild podcast. This is your space to breathe again. A space for women of color, single women, and single mothers to finally feel seen, deeply supported, and reminded that you don't have to do this journey alone. My name is Lydia, a certified life coach and founder of Break the Cycle Global and a proud cycle breaker. Around here, we don't just talk about life. We get real about it. The messy, the magical, and everything in between. From breaking unhealthy cycles to mastering your mindset, navigating relationships, parenting, career, money, faith, healing, and so much more. This is where we rebuild when life doesn't go as planned. I know what it's like to feel stuck because I've been there. And now, my heart beats for women like you, ready to rise up and embrace love, abundance, and confidence. So whether you're carrying painful wounds, facing another hard season, or simply ready for a fresh start, you are in the right place, my friend. Grab your coffee, warm your tea, and welcome home. Because this is where we break, heal, and rebuild together. Hey friend, welcome back to another episode of the Rise and Rebuild podcast. I am your host Lydia, and I am so glad you tuned in today. Happy Wednesday, you all, or whatever day it is that you're listening to this episode. I hope you're well, and I hope the good Lord has kept you well. If you're new here, welcome home. This is where you break, heal, and rebuild. We are so glad to have you here. If you haven't subscribed, hit that like and subscribe button and become a subscribe member in this channel. And if you haven't followed us on Spotify and Apple, if you use Apple Podcasts, do that, my friend. I appreciate you all. And I am so thankful for you, my friend. And just a reminder, this week we are hosting the Love Rewired Bootcamp. It's live. So if you haven't joined us and you still want to have a piece of the cake, come on in. The link is in the bio. Go ahead and sign up for that. We start on Friday for the next 3 weeks. So let's get into today's conversation. Today, I am talking to the woman who's tired of confusing relationships and chemistry and, looking at red flags and wondering, is this a red flag? Is this a green flag? So today I want to talk about the red flags no woman should ever ignore in our relationships, especially the ones that show up early, because those ones can cost you later and bite you real bad. I want you to know that red flags, as people call it, they don't disappear. They just camouflage over time and they grow. And the things you ignore at the beginning of our relationships are usually the ones that later come to cost you big time. So today I want to talk to that woman that is ignoring some red flags they are seeing. They don't want to talk about it, or they're sweeping it under the rug, that hoping things will look better, things will change. Well, newsflash, they never change. They never, ever change. So I hope after listening to this episode today, you will stop ignoring at red flags that are glaring on your face and take them as they are and do something about it. So I don't want you to start making excuses for people that are clearly are not good for you. I don't want you to think that you have no other option, or that you're in a rush to make decisions in relationships, especially for long-term relationships. I want you to know that you have a choice out, you have a way out, and you don't have to put up with things that are not good, that your intuition says they are not going to change, but I'm just putting up with this, that your mind, your heart, your spirit is just not agreeing, but you're just finding yourself choosing this person. You feel like your biological clock is ticking, you're running out of time. There are more women than there are men, and so you miss a man. Those are the women I want to talk to today. I want you to look at red flags and call them their names. Call a spade a spade. If it is not good, it is not good. Do not excuse people and walk through the red flags, the ones that are always screaming loudly at first, and they will come to bite you later. So I want you to absolutely tell yourself the truth. If it's a red flag, it's a red flag. If it's not a green flag, don't mess with that man. Don't mess with that person. Let us call them for what they are. And when we talk about red flags or calling out red flags, I'm not asking you to stay guarded or fearful or even avoid relationship, but this is about discernment at a higher level where we are just getting open. We know what we deserve. We know who deserves to have access to us and who doesn't. And we are not here to miss out on genuine connection, really, or healthy love or a beautiful partnership. We are just here to stop confusing that intensity that comes with red flags with intimacy. So the goal for us today is not to build walls. It is to build wisdom so you can stay open without abandoning yourself. Because healthy love does not require you to ignore your intuition. And that is where red flags creep in when you're ignoring what you're feeling and what is actually glaring on your face. And healthy love, as I said, it will never ask you to shrink yourself. So let's get into the first red flag that I think no woman should ever ignore. Inconsistency. That is, in my opinion, that is a major red flag. One day, this person is calling you, is texting you, is checking up on you, is making plans, and then he disappears and then pops back up like nothing happened. He shows interest at first, then pulls back. He disappears, reappears, and the excuse is always the same. I've been busy, I've been doing this. You should be very careful with people that are not consistent with their ways, with the way they talk, with the way they speak, or with the way they do things. Look at that inconsistency carefully and focus on what they are trying to tell you and pay attention to what they are really trying to tell you behind the inconsistency. I don't want you to be in a situation where you're trying to figure out where you stand with somebody, where you have to always ask them, who are we? Like you're so into him, but he's not into you and you're just emotionally unsettled. So, my dear sis, one of the major red flag I want you to focus on this year and you cannot afford to ignore is inconsistency, because if someone can't show up steadily in the beginning, it usually doesn't get better with time. It gets even worse. That is one. The other one is lack of emotional responsibility. This is a silent one because this is the man who cannot apologize, who cannot take correction, who can't reflect, who cannot admit when he's wrong, who everything is always somebody else's fault, or who tells you, hey, you're too sensitive, or you misunderstood me, you're doing too much. And what ends up happening is you now become the emotional adult in that relationship. You are the one always trying to talk him out of his anger issues, maybe. You're the one trying to fix stuff. You're the one trying to keep up the peace or to keep the peace going. You're the one carrying the weight of communication for two people. That is exhausting because a relationship cannot be healthy if only one person has emotional maturity. Listen, if someone cannot own their behavior, they will always repeat it. And it doesn't get better. It gets worse. The third red flag in my books, it is what I call soft violence. I'm not talking only about physical violence. That is even a no. Soft violence is that disrespect that hides behind shadows, that hides behind sarcasm, that hides behind belittling jokes, that intimidation, the silent treatment, that controlling behavior, the threats, even if they are subtle, they can be very harmful. So that soft violence comes to bite later because it's now training you as a person to shrink. Reason being, you'll stop bringing things up. You'll stop advocating yourself. You'll start choosing your words carefully around them. You start walking on eggshells. You start calling it keeping the peace, but really you're just losing your voice and your mind. And love here just stops being something you really be and are excited in, but it just becomes another burden. So watch out for those soft violence. That is not a good flag. It's actually a red flag. The other one is no integrity, no character. Where are you going with a person that does not have integrity? They can quote scriptures for all they want. They can talk about purpose. They can promise you the world, but their lifestyle is just there. There's no fruit. They lie, they cheat, they hide, and you know that. They have addictions, they're living double lives, they are disrespectful. My dear, I want you to watch this red flag or this behavior closely, because where there's no character, there's no integrity. And this will cost you your peace. You will always spend up your time cleaning up after someone, cleaning up after their messes, defending their behaviors in public or private, explaining away things your spirit already knows they are wrong, and you'll just never have peace with someone who doesn't have integrity. So look at that. If you know for sure this man does not have integrity, their character is questionable, run as fast as your legs can carry you. Okay? As we speak about character and integrity, let me speak to you, women of faith. My dear sister in Christ, a man can pray, a man can read scriptures, he can quote the whole Bible, he can sound deep, spiritual, and aligned, and still be very unsafe for you. You know what? This is one of the most overlooked red flags, actually, for women of faith, because when you're spiritual, when you're prayerful, you don't just listen with your ears, you listen with hope. You want to believe, you want to see the good in this person, you want to actually trust that God is sending you this person. But sometimes a counterfeit, as a woman of faith, may be brought to you by the enemy to actually confuse you out of your own purpose. So those nice spiritual words without a spiritual fruit, they are warning signs. So watch out about how he talks about God but avoids accountability, how he uses scripture maybe as a weapon to excuse behavior instead of correcting it, how he prays with you but won't do the work of healing on himself. He's spiritual in conversation but very inconsistent in character. He leads in words but his actions are questionable. No, that is not spiritual leadership. That is spiritual camouflage. God does not bypass character to deliver love. Character comes first. So I want you not to be confused by these people who are looking like they are very spiritual. They know God. Sometimes if you're a woman of faith, as I've said, and you've been really working on yourself and your relationship with God, the devil might bring a counterfeit just to test your faith. So pray for a discerning spirit. Pray that you find a healthy, God-aligned man who will never use God to pressure you, to suppress you, to accuse you, to do things that are contrary to the word of God. Because God is not the author of confusion, anxiety, or even self-abandonment. So be very careful, because not everybody that calls me Lord, Lord, Lord knows him. That is a big red flag. Well, let me say this. There are other men that truly know God, that truly know who they are in God, that are truly good men. So those are welcome. That is a big green flag. But also be very discerning, not to confuse the two. The other red flag is be careful of a man that resents your strength. Sometimes there are men that resent how strong you are. You know, those men that give those back-ended compliments, those little punishments, the man who is always competing with you, he gets weird when you're shining, he's supportive when you're struggling but uncomfortable when you're winning, he punishes you when you're confident or calls you too much, or you're too extroverted or you're too introverted. You know, it tells you you're doing too much or tries to spiritualize it and say you need to humble yourself, submit yourself, or submit better. You know what happens over time with that is that you start dimming your light for his light to shine. Not because you want to, but because you're trying so hard to keep the relationship calm and not to, quote unquote, or parentheses, to emasculate the man. So you start shrinking, you start over explaining, you start editing your joy, your voice, your power, so he doesn't feel threatened. My dear, hear me. The right love will never ever ask you to be small, or never ever require you to become small. A healthy man is never intimidated by your strength or lack of it. He respects it, he covers it, he celebrates it. So it's a big red flag when someone resents how strong you are. The other red flag that you don't want to hear, but I'm going to tell you anyway, it's giving benefits without commitment. This is the one where somebody wants wife privileges without husband responsibility. He wants your body, he wants your time, he wants your loyalty, he wants your emotional labor. But when it comes to clarity, him clarifying who you are and taking control of the relationship, he avoids it. He delays it. He doesn't give direction. He's very vague. So you're the one who keeps giving direction or a vision or carrying the vision of the relationship. Especially to my firstborn daughters, you may be tempted to ask, who are we in this relationship? You know, you keep showing up. You keep hoping that this level of love will finally make him choose you, where you're just giving and giving benefits. Let me be very clear. A man who is serious about you does not need to be convinced. If you have to beg for clarity, if you're constantly waiting for him to decide, if you're carrying the relationship while he enjoys the benefits, you know what I mean? You go to his house over the weekend, clean for him, do all the things you're doing for him while he's just there not committing. That's a big red flag. Love doesn't need or require you to audition. If he wants you, he will say it upfront. So stop auditioning. Stop. Just stop. Stop being someone's maid even before you become their wife. If they're not clear about who you are, I think the best thing you can do is take that time back and do something constructive for yourself. Or, as I like to joke, go mop the Indian Ocean. And hey, I'm not against men. I'm not against people who really are putting in effort to want you. I'm just against people who use you and then dump you for somebody else. And while here you've been giving your time, your energy, your resources to them. So I want you to be discerning that, hey, if this man is not really committing and does not have a clear direction of where we're heading, then I need to pull back and focus. The other red flag is somebody who is broken, but they're not healing. They just like to talk about where they came from, their traumas. It's all about their mother. It's all about their father. It's all about things people did to them, but they're never taking responsibility. They don't want therapy. They don't want coaching. They don't want accountability. My dear, that is a big red flag because all of us have traumas that we come in with in relationships. And the best thing a person can do, you and I, is take responsibility of our own traumas, our own issues, and heal them before we get into relationships. We must not bleed on people that did not cut us. We all have issues. We all have anger issues. We all have, well, at least most of us do, we all have wounds that we grew up with. But it's now our responsibilities in our adult life to make sure that we do not pass those wounds to other people, especially the people that did not hurt us. So if a man is not ready to heal, if a man is not ready to seek help and they want you, my friend, you are going to be the one that is going to carry the burden for them in that relationship. Some people out here are not looking for love. They are looking for healing. And so be careful as you make that choice. The other red flag in my books is love bombing. Do you know what love bombing is? A man meets you, they already have big words, big promises, big future plans way too early. It feels like, wow, finally I found my person. But then over time, mask slips away. The consistency fades, the behavior changes. They are now who they are, or they should have been from the very first start. Their real selves come to light. So a man that love bombs you at the beginning of the relationship, be very careful. Be very careful. Watch out. That intensity might not be intimacy because depth takes some time. Safety takes a lot of consistency, and anything that rushes you to commit, to do things a certain way, I don't think sometimes is good for you. Maybe it's a setup and it may not be safe. So watch out for that. In alignment to that, just in the same breath, the other red flag is isolation. This is a man that doesn't like you or friends. He doesn't like your family. He always has issues with that best friend of yours. He always has something negative to say about your church, maybe, your community, your support system. And at first, my dear, sometimes this sounds very reasonable. Sometimes they even say they're just protecting you. Sometimes they even say you don't really understand. Sometimes they just want to say that you're everything to them. And so he should be everything to you, that you don't need friends, you don't need girlfriends, you don't need your family. Be very careful of a man that isolates you from the people that you love or the people that love you, because they know those are the people that are going to put sanity back to your plate if sanity checks out. So be very careful of a man that isolates you from people. That is not a good person. That is a red flag. Somebody just came to your life and he already has issues with your friends. He already has issues with your women friends, especially. He already has issues with your male friends. He already has issues with your male friends, unless the boundaries are blurred. He should not have issues with that. Issues with family? No. I want you to check out a man that isolates you. He's not a good person. He's not. Be very careful. Don't just fall in with everything that you have. Question, why am I being isolated from the people that I love, from the people that have been in my life for so long? Is it that there are boundaries that are being crossed? If yes, then let's talk about it. But if no, I don't think somebody should do that to you. And neither should you do that to them. Okay. So, and as I talk about these red flags, I also want you to focus on yourself. You could also be the red flags. Remember, in this channel, we also point the finger back to us and mirror us and ask ourselves, are we maybe the red flags here? So as I talk through this, it's not always about the other person. Sometimes you are the red flag. All right. And the final red flag that I think we should all watch out for, especially for single mothers, is a man that does not like your children. Check that out. If somebody does not like your children or does not like your life that you've already built, I wouldn't have any business dating them, because I come as a package. And if you're going to marry or agree to date a single mother, then you would agree to take on their children as your children. Same here. If I met a single father and I am willing to be in their lives, I'll take care of their children. I would be the mother to those children, the stepmother, of course, if they have their mom. So be very careful of a man that wants you but does not want your children. I'll be very careful. I will think twice about it. You don't need to sacrifice your children for the sake of a man. You don't. I know that is hard and very hard to hear, but I'm telling you the reality is, and the truth that you want to hear from me, don't sacrifice your children for the sake of a man. It's not worth it. If he wants you, he will take all of you, regardless of how many children you have. And forget about the toxic masculinity you're hearing out here and toxic femininity that you're hearing out here. There are good men out here that will absolutely take care of you and take care of your children. So somebody that tells you leave your children behind, then come, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. The other red flag, quick one before I wrap, is check out how this man treats his mother and his sisters. For me, it's a big one. And I will probably talk about in-law dynamics later on. But having gone through my own phase and issues with in-laws, ex-in-laws and all that, check out how this man treats his family, his sisters and his mother, because that is going to be a blueprint of how he will treat you. That is one. Two, I always tell people, check out his family. Some of us think we are islands and we are just getting married to this man. But the truth is, his family plays a big role in your marriage. Same as your family. So either way, either sides, look at the family that he comes from as you also look at the family you came from. Notice those wounds, notice those traumas. You will know. I can tell you from my own experience, had I taken time to do some of these things and a quick research, I'll probably have saved myself tons of disappointment. Because if their family does not like you and your other side of the family does not like them, there's going to be trouble. So a red flag for me would be when I get introduced to a family and they don't like me, I will start to think twice about it. If I haven't done anything and at the first instance of them just seeing me, they don't just like me, I will think twice. You will save yourself tons of stress if you just step back and don't force yourself into a family that does not like you. So I think in my books, that's a big red flag. It might not be a red flag for the man per se, but remember, you are just not marrying this man. You will hear people tell you, as long as the man is okay, he'll protect you. But from my own experience, my friends, things never really go down well, especially in family dynamics where there's just a lot of back and forth and you're not liked, you're not appreciated. I mean, they don't have to like you, you're not ice cream, yes, but there has to be some level of respect. If you know, you know. So watch out for those. I want you to take time this year and really date intentionally. Choose carefully who you marry. Don't just go in blindly because marriage is an eye opener. Love is blind, but marriage is certainly an eye opener. All right. So those are some of the red flags in my own books. So think about those and just be intentional about how you date this year. I hope you choose better this year now that you know better. Until next time, my friend, that's all I had. I love you deeply and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.